Sunday afternoon, the account is up $800 from last month. Your partner glances at the balance and goes quiet, not because they're relieved, because they're already counting what's coming. The registration, the dentist bill, something the kids need for school, the $800 doesn't cover it, and they're already feeling behind. You see the same number and feel something different. You feel okay, like you're doing it right. Same account, same $800. And right now, in this moment, you and your partner have a critical decision to make that will impact your financial future. We know a couple who hit that exact Sunday. The Garcias. Same income range, same stage of life, same kind of moment Sarah and I were in. We made one decision. 20 years later, we have $325,000 more than they do. The Garcias made a different decision, and they're still having the same quiet Sunday afternoon. Still feeling the same low-grade tension they can't quite name. By the end of this video, you and your partner are going to know exactly what that decision was and which one to make. I'm Mike Miller. Sarah and I lived that Sunday for years before we understood what was actually happening. And if that scene feels familiar to you, be sure to hit subscribe, because we make this kind of content every week. And here's the part that catches most couples completely off guard. The decision has nothing to do with how much you earn, how much you save, or how disciplined either of you is. Most couples never even know it exists. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, what is actually happening when couples fight about money? Almost never what they think. The Garcias, Elena and Marco, mid-30s, 2 kids, 2 incomes, are responsible. They budget, they have a savings account, they talk about money, and they fight about it every single month. Not loud fights, the slow kind. One person suggests something, the other shuts down, a $300 decision becomes 3 days of silence, everything gets resolved on the surface, nothing actually changes. I used to think couples like the Garcias had a discipline problem, a planning problem, a spending problem. They don't. They have a definition problem. Here's what I mean. Before you were 10 years old, you developed an unconscious relationship with money. Not a philosophy, a feeling. It came from watching the adults in your house, how money was talked about, how it was fought over, whether it was a source of pride, shame, silence, or crisis. And that feeling taught you what money means, not what money does. What it means. For some people, money means safety. Every dollar in the account is a layer between them and disaster. Spending it doesn't feel like a choice, it feels like removing armor. The lower the balance, the more exposed they feel, even when they're objectively fine. For others, money means possibility. It's fuel. It exists to be put to work, to create options, to make life feel open and forward-moving. Money sitting idle feels like waste, like you worked for something and won't let yourself use it. Neither one is wrong. Both make complete sense from the inside. But when two people with different money meanings share one bank account, they're not having a conversation about money. They're speaking 2 different languages and assuming the translation is automatic. Elena Garcia grew up watching her family go underwater after one bad medical year. To her, money means safety. When she looks at their balance, she's measuring it against every threat on the horizon. Marco grew up watching his father work a job he hated for 40 years and retire with almost nothing. To him, money means freedom. When he looks at their balance, he's measuring it against what it could become. They both say we need to be responsible with money. They mean completely different things every time. Psychologists call this a financial schema mismatch. Two people whose unconscious definitions of money are fundamentally incompatible, running quietly underneath every decision they make together. A 2022 BYU study published in Family Relations found that couples who perceived they share the same financial values and could communicate about them reported significantly higher marital satisfaction and stability than couples who didn't. The researchers tested 1,700 newlywed couples. The mechanism wasn't income, it wasn't savings rate, it was shared financial language. Not how much you make, not how disciplined you are, how well you actually understand what your partner means when they use the word money. But here's what nobody tells you. The gap is invisible. It hides inside agreement. You both say you want to be smart. You both want to feel secure. You're nodding at the same words and picturing completely different things. That's not a money fight. That's a translation failure. Here's the belief that keeps most couples stuck in the loop. They think the fix is a better system, a tighter budget, a new app, a weekly money meeting where they agree to do better this time. So they try it. They sit down with a laptop open and good intentions. They make rules, and for 2 or 3 weeks, the rules hold. Then one person spends something, the other brings it up, and the argument isn't about the purchases. It never was. You can't budget your way out of a definition problem. Think of it this way. You and your partner are both reading from the same dictionary. Same words, same cover. You've been reading from it your entire relationship. But half the definitions in your copy are different from the ones in theirs. Safe means one thing to you and something else entirely to them. Enough means you've arrived, or it means you've stopped moving, depending on which dictionary you're holding. Responsible means protection to one of you and limitation to the other. You're not arguing about money. You're arguing about what the words mean. Sarah and I had this. We had the spreadsheet, we had the shared account, we had the weekly check-in. And we kept landing in the same place, one of us feeling controlled, the other feeling ignored, because we'd never once compared dictionaries. Until one conversation changed everything. Not a money conversation, a meaning conversation. The Garcias are still running the same budget with 2 different dictionaries. Sarah and I finally read from the same one. Here's how we got there, and how you can too. 3 moves in order. The first thing Sarah and I did, not a budget, not an app, not a spreadsheet, was sit down and answer one question out loud to each other. What did money feel like in your house growing up? Not what the numbers were, not rich or poor. What did it feel like? Was there tension, silence, pride, a running undercurrent of stress you weren't supposed to notice? Here's the only rule. When your partner answers, you do not respond. You don't relate it back to your own experience. You don't reassure them. You don't fix anything. You listen for 2 full minutes. That's it. Then you answer. And they listen. That's what Sarah and I did. Find a time when you're both calm. Not after a fight. Not when a bill just arrived. Sit somewhere that isn't the kitchen table with a laptop open. And ask each other one question. Sarah and I did this on a Wednesday night about 2 years into our marriage. She told me that growing up, money was something her parents only discussed when something was wrong. So every financial conversation we had, no matter how routine, triggered a low-level alarm in her that I never knew existed. I'd been reading her caution as stubbornness. It was actually a protection response I'd never thought to ask about. The origin question doesn't hand you a solution. It hands you a map, and you can't navigate together until you're both looking at the same one. But here's where it gets interesting. Naming the past is only the first move. Now you know where your partner's money instincts came from. This move shows you exactly where your definitions are different right now in the present. Each of you takes a piece of paper, separately, no sharing yet, and you write your gut definition of 3 words: safe, enough, free. Don't think too hard. Write the definition that feels true, not the one that sounds right. The gut answer, not the correct one, then share what you wrote. Marco Garcia's definition of safe: money working hard enough that a bad month doesn't break you. Elena's: 6 months of expenses, untouched, never touched, always there. They'd both use the word safe for 11 years. They'd meant completely different things every single time. Fidelity's 2024 Couples and Money Study surveyed 1,794 couples, testing each partner separately, then comparing answers. 53% disagreed on how much to save for retirement, not because they weren't trying, because they'd never defined what enough meant to each of them. More than half fighting over a word they'd never actually defined together. When Sarah and I did this, we both wrote our definition of free. I wrote options, the ability to make a different choice without it being a crisis. Sarah wrote no payments, nothing owed to anyone. Same word, 2 completely different pictures. We'd used that word for years without realizing we were describing different destinations. The 3-word test takes 20 minutes. Most couples find at least one word, usually more, where their definitions are miles apart. That gap isn't a crisis. It's the missing page from the dictionary. And once you find it, you can finally write the same definition together. Here's the part that surprises most couples. Move number 3. You know where your money instincts came from. You've seen exactly where your definitions split. Now you build something new together. Not a budget, not a savings goal, not a 5-year plan. 1 sentence. The sentence answers this: what does financial success feel like for both of us? Using words you've just defined and agreed on. It has to use your words, the ones you just wrote down. It has to mean the same thing to both of you when you read it out loud. Ours was, we keep enough set aside that nothing breaks us, and we put the rest to work building options. That sentence made Sarah feel protected by her definition of free. It made me feel like we were moving forward by mine. 1 sentence, 2 definitions, same direction. When a money decision came up, we had 1 sentence to run it through. Does this keep us protected? Does this put the rest to work? Most of the time, the answer is clear. When it isn't, we talk about which matters more right now, and we're talking from the same dictionary. That's the kicker. Once you have that sentence, the budget stops being a rule book you're enforcing on each other. It becomes a tool you're both using to build the same thing in the same language. Let's go back to that Sunday afternoon. Same income, same starting balance, 2 couples. 1 closes the definition gap, 1 doesn't. The Garcias keep making decisions from 2 different dictionaries. Some months, Elena's definition wins. They hold back, underinvest. Some months, Marco's wins. They spend freely, undersave. The choices average out. The money moves, but not with intention. Not toward anything specific, not together. Run the math on it. A dual-income couple at age 32 investing $1,000 a month consistently at a standard 7% return. That's Sarah and me. The Garcias start 3 years late because they can't agree and invest half that amount because they keep splitting the difference. Both numbers come straight from Fidelity's Quarter 4 2024 data on what dual-income households actually save. At 20 years, the gap between those two couples is $325,000. Not from different incomes, not from different investment strategies, from two people making reasonable choices in two different languages. That's not 325,000 lost to bad decisions. It's 325,000 that never got built because two people kept making reasonable choices in incompatible languages. Sarah and I still have hard months, still have Sundays where the balance feels different to each of us, but we're moving in the same direction, reading from the same dictionary, and every decision runs through the same sentence. 325,000. That's what the Garcias Sunday afternoon costs, not because they spent it, because they never agreed on what the number meant. That's the decision from the moment we open this video. Not which account to open, not which investment to pick, whether to close the definition gap before one more Sunday goes by. Here's what I want you to hold on to. You are not bad at money. You were never taught to read from the same dictionary as your partner. Nobody teaches that. The fact that you're here, both trying to figure it out, that already puts you ahead of most couples who never even ask the question. Tonight, not next week, tonight, sit down with your partner and ask one question. What did money feel like in your house growing up? And then listen. Really listen. Don't relate, don't fix, don't fill the silence. Just understand what they experienced. That's how you start reading from the same dictionary. If this gave you a different way to think about the fights you've been having, hit subscribe and drop a like. We do this for couples every single week, and this is exactly the kind of thing we cover. You two have got this. Go and talk about it tonight.